The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the Valiant. Lieutenant Commander Kate checked her tactical display one more time. 3 hours until they reached 442. 3 hours until the mission that would change everything. Kate stood near the main viewport, watching the stars blur past as the ship moved through faster-than-light travel. She was 32 years old and had served in the human fleet for 10 years. The war with the Empire had consumed the last 3 of those years. It was a brutal war, and humanity was losing. There were reptilian creatures who stood nearly 7 feet tall. Their scales were dark green, and their eyes were cold and yellow. They had ruled 17 star systems before humanity even learned how to leave Earth. When humans started colonizing nearby worlds, they saw it as an insult. They believed mammals had no place among the stars. The war started 5 years ago when warships destroyed the human colony on New Hope. 3,000 people died in minutes. Men, women, and children were vaporized when the bombarded the settlement from orbit. Since then, the fighting had only grown worse. Kate commanded a strike team of 20 soldiers. They were the best the Valiant had to offer. Their mission was simple on paper but dangerous in practice. Intelligence had located a military installation on 442, a border world that sat between human and space. The facility coordinated attacks on human colonies. It had to be destroyed. Sergeant Ben Carter approached Kate at the viewport. He was a big man with short brown hair and a scar across his left cheek. He had been with Kate for 2 years and never questioned her orders. "Everyone is ready, Commander," Ben said. "We drop in 90 minutes." Kate nodded. "How are the new recruits holding up?" "Nervous, but they will do fine. Private Lewis keeps checking his weapon every 5 minutes." Kate smiled slightly. "I did the same thing on my first drop mission." The hours passed quickly. Kate gathered her team in the drop bay. They wore black combat armor that could withstand small arms fire and provided life support in hostile environments. Each soldier carried a pulse rifle and various explosives for the demolition work ahead. "Listen up," Kate said, her voice clear and firm. "This is a quick strike. We drop, we breach, we plant the charges, and we leave. Intelligence says the facility has maybe 50 soldiers. We have surprise on our side, but once we are inside, that advantage disappears. Stay sharp and watch your sectors." The team nodded. Kate could see the fear in some of their eyes, but also the determination. These soldiers knew what they had done to human colonies. They wanted revenge as much as anyone. The Valiant moved into orbit around 442. The planet was mostly desert with a few mountain ranges. The facility sat in a valley between 2 peaks, partially hidden from orbital sensors. The drop pods launched from the Valiant's lower bay, streaking through the atmosphere like falling stars. Kate felt the familiar pressure of rapid descent. The pod shook violently as it hit the thinner air. Then came the jarring impact as the pod slammed into the ground. The door blew open, and Kate was moving before the dust settled. Her team formed up around her. The facility stood 200 meters ahead, a low building made of gray metal and concrete. It looked industrial and cold, typical of military architecture. 2 guard towers stood at the corners, but Kate's team had landed in a sensor-blind spot. Ben used a scanner to check for patrols. "We have 30 seconds before the next guard rotation." "Move now," Kate ordered. The team sprinted across the open ground. They reached the facility's outer wall without being spotted. Private Lewis attached a shaped charge to the reinforced door. The explosion was controlled but loud. Alarms began wailing immediately. Kate led her team inside. The corridor was narrow and lit by harsh white lights. Soldiers appeared ahead, raising their weapons. Kate's team fired first. The pulse rifles made a high-pitched whine as they discharged energy bolts. 3 fell before they could return fire. The firefight was short but intense. Kate's team moved through the facility room by room, clearing each section. They fought hard, but they had not expected a ground assault. Most had prepared for ship-to-ship combat, not close-quarters fighting. 20 minutes into the mission, Kate's team reached the central command hub. Ben placed explosive charges on the main computer systems while other soldiers secured the exits. Everything was going according to plan. Then Private Lewis found the locked door. "Commander, we have a reinforced barrier here. Not standard military construction. It has biometric locks." Kate frowned. Intelligence had not mentioned any special sections. "Can you breach it?" Lewis nodded and set to work. The lock sparked and hissed before finally opening. Kate raised her rifle and pushed through the doorway, ready for anything. What she found made her freeze. The room was large and warm. Soft lighting replaced the harsh military illumination of the rest of the facility, and everywhere she looked, she saw cubs. 37 of them, ranging from tiny infants to adolescents about 12 years old. They huddled together in groups, their yellow eyes wide with terror. Some of the younger ones were crying, making high-pitched sounds that reminded Kate of frightened kittens. The older cubs positioned themselves in front of the younger ones, trying to protect them despite their obvious fear. Ben appeared beside Kate. "What in the name of Earth?" Kate lowered her rifle slowly. Her mind raced. This was a military installation. Why were there children here? Then she understood. The officers stationed here had brought their families. The cubs were the offspring of the soldiers her team had just killed. "Commander, we need to move," Ben said quietly. "The charges are set. We have 8 minutes before this place turns into dust." Kate stared at the cubs. The oldest one, a female with darker scales, met her eyes. There was fear there, but also intelligence. The cub understood what was happening. She knew these humans had come to kill. "Commander," Ben repeated, more urgently this time. Kate knew her orders. High command had been clear. The facility must be completely destroyed. No survivors. They could not learn about human tactics or capabilities. Any witnesses had to be eliminated. That included these cubs. Kate thought of her own daughter, Emma, back on Earth. Emma was 8 years old with bright eyes and a constant smile. Kate fought this war so Emma could grow up safe. She fought so her daughter would never know the fear these cubs felt right now. But looking at these frightened children, Kate could not see enemies. She saw kids who wanted their parents. Kids who did not understand why these strange creatures had come to hurt them. Kids who would die in 7 minutes if she followed her orders. Kate made her decision. "Change of plans," she said firmly. "Lewis, Harper, start moving these cubs outside. Get them at least 300 meters from the building. Move quickly." Ben stared at her. "Commander, our orders." "I know what our orders are, Sergeant. I am giving you new ones. Move these cubs to safety. That is a direct command." For a moment Ben did not move. Then he nodded. "Yes, ma'am, you heard the commander. Let us get these kids out of here." The team worked fast. The younger cubs had to be carried. Kate picked up one of the smallest, an infant that could not have been more than a few months old. It trembled in her arms but did not fight. The older cubs helped, urging the younger ones to follow the humans. They cleared the building with 2 minutes to spare. Kate set the infant down gently in a sheltered area behind a rock formation. The oldest female cub watched her with those intelligent yellow eyes. "Stay here," Kate told her. "Do not move until help comes. Do you understand?" The cub nodded slowly. Kate and her team ran for the extraction point. Behind them, the facility exploded in a massive fireball. The shockwave knocked Kate forward, but she kept running. The drop pods rocketed them back to the Valiant. As Kate strapped into her seat aboard the ship, she felt a cold certainty settle over her. She had saved those cubs, but she had also disobeyed direct orders during wartime. There would be consequences. She had no idea how severe those consequences would be. Kate expected questions when the Valiant reached the fleet staging area. She expected a debriefing about the mission. What she did not expect was the military police waiting at the docking bay. Two officers in crisp uniforms approached as soon as Kate stepped off the transport. The taller one spoke first. "Lieutenant Commander Kate, you are under arrest for disobeying direct orders during combat operations and for treason against humanity. Come with us." Kate felt her stomach drop, but she kept her face calm. Behind her, Ben stepped forward. "On what grounds? The mission was successful. The facility was destroyed." The military police officer did not look at Ben. His eyes stayed locked on Kate. "The charges have been filed by Admiral Gregory Hayes himself. Commander, surrender your weapon and come quietly." Kate unbuckled her sidearm and handed it over. "Can I at least talk to my team first?" "No, move now." They took her to a holding cell in the lower levels of the station. The room was small and gray with a single bench and a toilet. A camera watched from the corner. Kate sat on the bench and tried to understand what was happening. 3 hours later, a woman in a commander's uniform entered the cell. She had short black hair and carried a data tablet. "Lieutenant Commander, I am Commander Lisa. I have been assigned as your defense attorney." Kate stood. "Defense attorney? What exactly am I being charged with?" Lisa sat on the bench and gestured for Kate to join her. "You are facing 2 charges. First, willful disobedience of direct orders during wartime. Second, conduct prejudicial to good order and discipline. The prosecution may also add charges of aiding the enemy, but they have not filed that yet." "Aiding the enemy? I destroyed the facility. The mission succeeded." Lisa tapped her tablet. "Your helmet camera recorded everything, Commander. So did the cameras worn by your team. Command has reviewed all the footage. They know you evacuated 37 cubs before detonating the charges. Your orders specifically stated no survivors. You violated those orders." Kate felt anger rising in her chest. "Those were children, Bobbies. I was not going to murder kids." "I understand your reasoning," Lisa said carefully, "but High Command sees it differently. Admiral Hayes is using your case to send a message. He believes humanity needs to show strength, not mercy. We are losing this war, Commander. The Galactic Council watches everything we do. If we appear weak, other species might side with or worse, they might see us as easy targets. So they want to execute me to look tough." Lisa met her eyes. "The maximum penalty for disobeying orders during wartime is death. Admiral Hayes is pushing for exactly that." The words hit Kate like a physical blow. She had known there would be consequences, but execution. "What about my team? They helped evacuate the cubs." "They followed your orders. The responsibility falls on you as the commanding officer. Your team will face minor disciplinary actions, but nothing serious." Over the next week, Kate met with Lisa several times. The attorney was smart and dedicated, but even she admitted the case looked bad. The evidence was clear. Kate had knowingly violated her orders. The military tribunal would have no choice but to find her guilty. The trial took place on the station's main courtroom. It was a large room with high ceilings and rows of seats for observers. The 3 judges sat behind an elevated desk, all senior officers with decades of experience. Admiral Hayes sat in the front row, watching everything with cold eyes. The prosecution called witnesses first. An intelligence officer about the strategic importance of the mission. The 442 facility coordinated attacks that killed over 400 human soldiers in the past 6 months. Its destruction was critical to our defense strategy. Next came a tactical expert who explained why the no survivors order had been given. Any who witnessed our assault tactics could provide valuable intelligence to enemy command. We could not risk that information getting out. Commander's decision to spare the cubs potentially compromised our operational security. Then Admiral Hayes himself took the stand. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face carved from stone. His uniform displayed 4 decades of service ribbons. Commander's actions demonstrate a dangerous weakness, Hayes said, his voice carrying through the courtroom. We are not fighting a conventional war. They see mercy as stupidity. They will use any advantage we give them. By sparing enemy offspring, Commander sent a message that humans can be manipulated through emotional appeals. She put every human soldier at greater risk. Lisa cross-examined when she could, but the facts were not on Kate's side. Yes, the Cubs were children. Yes, they posed no immediate military threat. But Kate had still violated direct orders, and in military law, that was enough. On the third day, Lisa called Kate to testify. Kate wore her dress uniform, stripped of all rank insignia per military protocol for accused officers. She sat in the witness chair and swore to tell the truth. Lisa asked her to describe what happened in the facility. Kate spoke clearly and without emotion. She described finding the Cubs, understanding what they were, and making the decision to evacuate them. "Why did you disobey your orders?" Lisa asked. Kate looked at the judges. "Because they were children. I have a daughter back on Earth. She is 8 years old. When I looked at those Cubs, I saw her. I saw frightened kids who did not understand why they were about to die. I could not kill them. I would not kill them." "You understand your orders were given for strategic reasons?" "Yes." "You understand that by sparing those Cubs, you potentially gave the enemy information about human tactics." "The Cubs were infants and young children. They saw soldiers in armor. That is all. They learned nothing that would help the military." The prosecution attorney stood for cross-examination. He was a short man with sharp features and a sharper mind. "Commander, how long have you served in the military?" 10 years. "And in those 10 years, how many times have you been given orders you did not personally agree with?" Kate paused. "Many times." "But you followed those orders, correct?" "Yes." "Until, what made this situation different?" Kate chose her words carefully. "The other orders never asked me to murder children." "Murder is a strong word, Commander. Your orders were to ensure complete destruction of a military facility to prevent intelligence leaks. The presence of enemy Cubs was unfortunate, but did not change your mission parameters." "I disagree. Orders can be wrong. Following an immoral order does not make it right." The prosecutor smiled thinly. "So you believe you have the right to decide which orders are moral and which are not? You place your personal judgment above military command structure." "In this case, yes. I would make the same choice again." That statement sealed her fate. The judges conferred for 6 hours. When they returned, their faces showed no emotion. The lead judge, a woman named Captain Sandra Price, read the verdict. "Lieutenant Commander Kate, this tribunal finds you guilty of willful disobedience of direct orders during combat operations. We also find you guilty of conduct prejudicial to good order and military discipline." Kate felt Lisa tense beside her. Captain Price continued, "The evidence shows you knowingly violated explicit orders that were given for strategic military purposes. While this tribunal acknowledges the moral difficulty of your situation, we cannot allow individual officers to override command decisions based on personal feelings. Such behavior undermines the entire military structure. Therefore, this tribunal sentences you to death by firing squad. Sentence to be carried out 30 days from today at the Mars Military Detention Facility. You are hereby stripped of all rank, honors, and military privileges. This court is adjourned." Kate heard the words but felt disconnected from them. Death. They were going to execute her for refusing to kill children. Part of her had known this was possible, but hearing it spoken aloud made it terrifyingly real. Military police led her from the courtroom. She saw Ben in the crowd, his face pale. She saw other members of her team, some with tears in their eyes. She saw Admiral Hayes looking satisfied. They transported Kate to Mars 3 days later. The detention facility was a grim complex built into the red rock of the planet's surface. Her cell was larger than the one on the station, but just as cold. She had a bed, a desk, and a toilet. A small window showed the rust-colored landscape outside. Lisa visited when she could, but there was nothing more to be done. The appeals process was automatic but had little chance of success. The evidence was too clear. Kate had broken the rules, and the military was making an example of her. Kate spent her days writing letters to her daughter. She tried to explain why she had made the choice she did. She wanted Emma to understand that some decisions were more important than survival. She wanted her daughter to know that choosing to live with shame was worse than dying with honor. At night, Kate thought about the cubs. She wondered if they were safe. She wondered if they understood that the human who saved them was now condemned to die. She wondered if any of it mattered. 20 days into her sentence, Kate received an unexpected visitor. A Galactic Council observer named Palmer came to her cell. Was human, one of the few representing Earth in galactic politics. "I have been following your case," said, sitting across from Kate in the small visiting room. "What you did took courage." Kate shook her head. "Courage gets you killed, apparently." "Maybe, but it also starts conversations. Your trial has been broadcast across multiple star systems. Other species are watching how humanity treats its own soldiers. Some are horrified. Others are impressed by our rule of law. I am glad my execution serves as entertainment." Leaned forward. "What if I told you there might be another way? What if those cubs you saved could speak for you?" Kate looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean that sometimes the smallest voices carry the farthest. Your execution is scheduled in 10 days. A lot can happen in 10 days." Left without explaining further, Kate sat alone in her cell, a tiny spark of hope burning in her chest. She did not know what meant, but for the first time since the verdict, she allowed herself to wonder if she might survive this after all. Had served intelligence for 15 years. He had monitored human communication since the war began, learning their languages and studying their culture. Most considered humans to be barbaric mammals, barely worthy of notice. Knew better. Humans were dangerous precisely because they were unpredictable. He sat in his monitoring station on the intelligence ship Talon's Eye, reviewing intercepted human transmissions. Most were routine military chatter or civilian broadcasts. Then something caught his attention. A military trial. A human commander accused of treason. Pulled up the full transmission. He watched the trial footage with growing interest. The human female, Kate, had led an assault on a facility. Standard military operation. But then came the unexpected part. She had found cubs and evacuated them before destroying the building. Now her own government wanted to execute her for showing mercy. This made no sense to. Propaganda portrayed humans as savage killers who murdered without discrimination. Yet here was evidence of a human commander risking her life and career to save enemy children. Either the propaganda was wrong, or this human was an exception. Dug deeper, he accessed military records and found reports about the 442 incident. The facility had been destroyed, but 37 cubs survived. They had been relocated to a civilian shelter on Prime, a colony world far from the front lines. The military report did not explain how the cubs survived. It simply noted their recovery and relocation. Made a decision that would have been considered treason if discovered. He requested leave for personal reasons and traveled to Prime. The journey took 3 days. When he arrived, he went directly to the civilian shelter where the cubs were housed. The shelter was a converted community center, painted in warm colors with large windows. Inside, found chaos. Cubs of various ages played, studied, and ate under the supervision of civilian caretakers. The noise level was intense. Young were not quiet creatures. Approached the senior caretaker, an older female named. "I am here to speak with the cubs from 442, official intelligence business." Looked suspicious. "These cubs have been through trauma. They do not need more interrogation." I am not here to interrogate them. I need to understand what happened during the attack. Studied him for a long moment. Very well, but I stay with them during the conversation. She gathered the older cubs in a quiet room. 7 of them sat in a semicircle, their yellow eyes wary. The oldest, a female named, sat in the center. She looked directly at without fear. "You want to know about the humans who attacked our home," said. It was not a question. "Yes, I have read the reports, but I want to hear your account." Glanced at the other cubs. They nodded, giving her permission to speak for them. "The humans came fast. We heard explosions and weapons fire. Our parents told us to hide in the nursery. They said they would come back for us when it was safe." "But they did not come back," said quietly. "No, we waited. Then the door opened and human soldiers came in. We thought they would kill us. That is what everyone says humans do. They murder cubs and feast on the weak." Felt uncomfortable. He had repeated similar propaganda himself. What happened instead? The human commander looked at us. She had removed her helmet so we could see her face. She looked sad. Then she told her soldiers to carry us outside. We did not understand at first. Why would they save us? Another cub spoke up, a younger male with lighter scales. "The commander carried me herself. I was scared and crying. She made soft sounds like she was trying to calm me down. She was gentle." Continued. "They took us far from the building. The commander told me to stay down and keep the others quiet. Then they ran away. A few minutes later, the building exploded. If we had been inside, we would all be dead." Absorbed this information. The human commander saved you. She chose your lives over her mission. "She chose our lives over her own life," corrected. "We learned later that humans execute soldiers who disobey orders. She knew what would happen to her, but she saved us anyway." The word struck hard. This was not the act of a brutal savage. This was something else entirely. Something that did not fit into any category his government recognized. "Why did she do it?" asked, more to himself than the cubs. Answered anyway. "Because she saw children, not enemies, because she had honor." Returned to his ship that evening with his mind in turmoil. He accessed the human trial footage again and watched Kate testify. He saw her explain her decision, saw her accept the death sentence without begging for mercy. He saw a warrior who had chosen morality over obedience. Then did something that could cost him his life. He sent an encrypted message to the Galactic Council. The message contained footage of his interview with the Cubs, along with his own analysis. He explained that Kate represented a different side of humanity than propaganda acknowledged. He argued that executing her would be a waste of an honorable soldier. He did not expect a response. The Galactic Council rarely interfered in internal military matters. But 3 days later, he received a message from Palmer, the human representative on the council. The message was brief. "Your report reached me. The Cubs you interviewed might be able to save the commander's life. Are you willing to help?" Thought about the risk. Helping a human would make him a traitor in eyes. His career would be over. He might face execution himself. But he thought about and the other Cubs, alive because one human chose mercy over duty. He thought about what it would mean if the galaxy let that human die for doing the right thing. He sent his reply, "Tell me what you need." His plan was ambitious and dangerous. She wanted to bring the Cubs to Mars to testify on Kate's behalf. The Cubs would present their story directly to human authorities. Public pressure might force a pardon or at least a stay of execution. The first problem was transportation. Could not simply take Cubs into human space. That would be kidnapping and would likely start a diplomatic crisis. The Cubs would need to travel under official protection. Solved this by invoking an obscure Galactic Council provision. Council observers had the right to transport witnesses for humanitarian investigations. She filed the paperwork and designated the Cubs as witnesses to human military conduct. The Council, always eager to gather information, approved the request. The second problem was permission from the cubs and their caretakers. Return to Prime and explain the situation to and the older cubs. The human who saved you is going to be executed, he told them. There is a chance to save her life, but it requires some of you to travel to human space and speak on her behalf. This journey would be dangerous. Humans are still our enemies. Some might see you as targets. Spoke immediately. I will go, she saved my life, I will try to save hers. 4 other cubs volunteered as well. They ranged in age from 7 to 12. Was reluctant to let them go, but the cubs were determined. In culture, debts of honor were taken seriously. These cubs owed Kate their lives. They would not abandon that debt. Arranged for a council transport ship. It was neutral territory, protected by galactic law. The journey from Prime to Mars would take 9 days. Kate's execution was scheduled 12 days away. They would arrive with 3 days to spare. Joined the cubs on the transport, met them at the Prime spaceport. She was a short woman with brown hair and determined eyes. Thank you for doing this, she told. I know what it costs you. The cost is worth it if we succeed, replied. The transport ship was comfortable but plain. The cubs had never traveled in space before. They spent hours at the viewports, watching stars stream past. Found himself answering their questions about faster-than-light travel, other species, and the Galactic Council. On the 3rd day of the journey, approached with a request. We want to make something for the commander, a gift. Do you have materials we could use? What kind of gift? A medal. Humans value medals, correct. They give them to soldiers who do brave things. The commander did a brave thing. She should have a medal. Helped gather materials. The ship's fabrication lab could produce basic metal shapes. The cubs worked together, designing a medal that combined and human symbols. At the center, they engraved words in both languages using the ship's laser etcher. Watched them work with fascination. These children, who had every reason to hate humans, were creating something beautiful to honor one. It spoke to something fundamental about intelligent beings, something that transcended species. The capacity to recognize honor and respond to kindness existed across all cultures. On the 7th day, they received troubling news. High Command had discovered the cubs' departure. They were demanding the cubs be returned immediately. The military claimed the cubs were being kidnapped and used as propaganda tools. Worked frantically through diplomatic channels. She argued that the cubs were traveling voluntarily under council protection. The council backed her position, but the situation was tense. If warships tried to intercept the transport, it could trigger a major incident. The transport captain increased speed, pushing the engines to their limits. They needed to reach Mars before forces could act. The crew was nervous. Everyone knew that this mission had implications far beyond one human's life. On the 9th day, they entered human-controlled space. Mars appeared ahead, a rust-red sphere hanging in the black. The transport requested docking permission at the military facility where Kate was held. At first, human authorities the request. A ship carrying passengers approaching a secure military installation seemed like an obvious threat. Invoked her council credentials and demanded to speak with Admiral Hayes directly. The conversation was tense. Hayes did not want the cubs anywhere near his facility. This is a military matter, not a diplomatic circus, he told over the communication channel. These cubs are witnesses to the incident that led to Commander's conviction, argued. They have a right to speak on her behalf. The Galactic Council demands they be heard. Hayes knew he could not simply refuse a council demand. The political consequences would be severe. Reluctantly, he granted permission for the transport to dock, but he set strict conditions. The cubs would have 1 hour with Kate. They would be under constant guard. Any sign of trouble and they would be removed immediately. And the cubs disembarked under the watchful eyes of armed human soldiers. The cubs stayed close together, obviously frightened but determined. carried the metal they had made, wrapped carefully in cloth, led them through the facility's corridors, noticed how the human soldiers stared at the cubs with open hostility. To these humans were the enemy who had killed thousands of their people. Seeing enemy cubs walking freely through their base clearly angered them. They reached the detention wing. A guard checked their credentials before opening the heavy door to Kate's cell. Inside, Kate sat at a small desk, writing. She looked up as they entered, confusion clear on her face. Then stepped forward, and recognition dawned in Kate's eyes. The commander who had saved them was about to learn that those she saved had come to return the favor. Kate stared at the cubs standing in her cell. For a moment, she thought she might be dreaming. The isolation and stress of the past weeks had worn her down. Maybe her mind was playing tricks. Then spoke, and Kate knew this was real. "Commander, we have come a long way to see you," the young said. Her voice was clear and steady despite the obvious nervousness. "Do you remember us?" Kate stood slowly from her desk. She looked at each cub carefully. They had grown since 442. Their scales were brighter, healthier. They stood more confident, but she recognized them. "I remember. You were in the facility. You were in the nursery." "You saved us," said simply. "Now we are here to try to save you." Kate felt her throat tighten. She had not cried since the sentencing, but now tears threatened. "You should not be here. This is a military prison. It is not safe for you." Stepped forward. "They are under Galactic Council protection, Commander. Admiral Hayes gave permission for this visit. We have 1 hour." Kate noticed the adult standing near the door. He wore civilian clothes but carried himself like a soldier. "And you are?" "Intelligence. I investigated what happened at 442. The cubs told me how you saved them. I helped arrange this meeting." Kate looked at him in surprise. "You are risking a lot coming here." "No more than you risked for them," replied. Moved closer to Kate. The other cubs followed, forming a semicircle around the human commander. "We need to tell you what happened after you left," said. "We want you to understand." Kate sat back down, and the cubs began to speak. They took turns telling their story. How they waited after the humans left. How the building exploded and they realized they would have died if Kate had not moved them. How rescue teams found them hours later and took them to Prime. The youngest cub, a small male named, spoke in a quiet voice. "I have nightmares sometimes. I dream that the humans did not come or that they left us inside. I wake up scared. But then I remember your face. You looked at me and you were not scary. You were kind." Kate had to look away. These children should hate her. She was human and humans had killed their parents. Yet here they stood, thanking her for their lives. "Your people are saying bad things about you," continued. "They say you are a traitor. They say you helped the enemy, but we know the truth. You saw children and you chose to save us even when it would hurt you. That is not treason. That is honor." Kate found her voice. "In human military law, I disobeyed orders. That is a crime regardless of the reason." "Then human military law is wrong," said firmly. "You did the right thing. Everyone knows you did the right thing. Only your leaders are pretending otherwise." One of the other cubs, a female named, pulled out a data pad. "We have been watching your trial. It is being broadcast on networks too. Many are angry. They say if humans execute you for showing mercy, then humans have no honor at all. Some are saying the war should end because there is nothing worth fighting for if saving children is a crime." Kate absorbed this information. Her case was having effects she never imagined. "What do your leaders say?" Answered, "High Command is divided. Some see your actions as proof that humans are weak and emotional. Others see it as evidence that humans have moral principles worth respecting. The debate is intense." "Intense enough to stop the war?" Kate asked. "Maybe, if you live. If you die, you become a martyr for both sides. Humans who oppose the execution will be furious. Who respect honor will see it as proof that humans cannot be trusted. Your death might make the war worse." Added her perspective. The Galactic Council is watching closely. Other species are judging humanity based on this case. If we execute you for refusing to kill children, our reputation across the galaxy will be destroyed. We will be seen as barbaric. Kate looked at all of them. You came all this way to tell me this. No, said. She unwrapped the cloth she had been holding and revealed the medal. We came to give you this. The medal was beautiful in its simplicity. It combined and human design elements in a way that honored both cultures. The medal gleamed under the cell's harsh lights. The engraving in the center was clear and precise. Read it, said, handing the medal to Kate. Kate held the medal carefully. The words were in both English and script. She read the English version aloud. For choosing life when death was ordered. For seeing children where others saw enemies. We made it ourselves, said proudly. Everyone helped. Stepped closer. In culture, we give honor medals to warriors who show exceptional courage. You showed courage. You knew you would be punished, but you saved us anyway. You deserve this medal more than any soldier who just followed orders. The other cubs nodded agreement, spoke. We want to put it on you like in a proper ceremony. Will you let us? Kate could not speak. She nodded, tears finally falling, lifted the medal and placed it around Kate's neck. The weight of it settled against her chest, warm and solid. The other cubs stepped forward one by one, touching the medal gently, whispering words in that Kate did not understand but felt the meaning of anyway. When the ceremony finished, Kate pulled into a gentle hug. The young stiffened in surprise, then relaxed and returned the embrace. Soon all the cubs were gathered around Kate, and she held them as she had once held her own daughter. They were warm and alive, and they existed because she had chosen mercy over duty. Watched the scene with calculating eyes. She gestured to one of the guards. Are you recording this? The guard nodded. Every moment, standard security protocol. Good, make sure that footage is properly filed. I am sure it will be needed for the official record. Knew exactly what she was doing. The footage of cubs honoring a condemned human officer would be powerful. It would spread through media networks. It would change minds. It might save Kate's life. After 20 minutes, stepped back from the embrace. We need to do more. Coming here and giving you a medal is not enough. We want to testify at your appeal. We want to tell everyone what you did. There is no appeal scheduled, Kate said quietly. The verdict is final. I will be executed in 3 days. Then we will make them schedule one, said with surprising fierceness. We will go to your leaders. We will tell them they are wrong. We will not let you die for saving us. Spoke up. The cubs are correct. This cannot end here. If humanity executes you, it sends a message that mercy is weakness. That message will echo through the galaxy for generations. Kate looked at, can they actually testify? Is there any legal mechanism? Smiled slightly. The Galactic Council can request a review of any case involving relations. This case definitely qualifies. I can file the request today. It does not guarantee anything, but it will buy time. How much time? At least a week, maybe more if we can generate enough public pressure. Kate looked at the medal hanging around her neck, then at the cubs who had risked everything to come here. These children had more courage than many soldiers she knew. They were willing to stand before human authorities and argue for her life, even though humans had killed their parents. Why? Kate asked them. Why do you care so much? I am just one human. You could go home and forget about me. Met her eyes. Because what you did matters. You could have followed your orders and killed us. No one would have blamed you. It was war, but you chose differently. You chose us. If we do nothing while you die for that choice, then we are saying your sacrifice meant nothing. We cannot accept that. The hour passed too quickly. When the guards came to end the visit, the cubs hugged Kate one more time. She held each of them, memorizing their faces, their warmth, their surprising strength. As they prepared to leave, Kate called out too, "Thank you for helping them, for bringing them here. I know what it cost you." inclined his head in a gesture of respect. "Commander, you showed my people that humans have honor. It is my honor to help you in return." After they left, Kate sat alone in her cell, the medal still around her neck. She touched it gently, feeling the engraved words. For the first time since her sentencing, she felt something other than resignation. She felt hope. Outside the cell, immediately contacted her staff. "I need that footage sent to every major news network, human and alien. I want it on the Galactic Council servers within the hour. Make sure every species representative sees it." Her assistant looked concerned. "Admiral Hayes will not approve. He wants this case to be over quietly." "Admiral Hayes does not get to decide this anymore," said firmly. "This case stopped being about one commander the moment those cubs walked into that cell. Now it is about what humanity stands for. Are we a species that executes our heroes, or are we better than that?" The footage began spreading within minutes. News networks picked it up immediately. The image of cubs placing a handmade medal around a condemned human officer was powerful beyond words. It showed something people had not seen during the long, brutal war: genuine respect and gratitude crossing species lines. On Earth, protests began almost immediately. Citizens demanded Kate's pardon. They held signs with her picture and the words from the medal the cubs had made. Social media exploded with support. Millions of people shared the footage, adding their voices to the growing movement. In space, the reaction was more complicated but no less intense. Some saw the cubs' actions as betrayal. Others saw it as the highest form of honor. Civilian populations began questioning the war itself. If human soldiers could show mercy to enemy children, perhaps peace was possible after all. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species watched the footage and debated humanity's character. Some argued that Kate's treatment proved humans were barbaric. Others argued that her willingness to sacrifice herself for enemy children proved humans had extraordinary moral courage. Admiral Hayes watched his carefully controlled case spiral beyond his control. The execution he had planned as a statement of strength now threatened to become humanity's greatest shame. Political pressure mounted from every direction. The Council demanded a review. Earth's civilian government demanded answers. Even some military officers began questioning the verdict. 3 days before the scheduled execution, Hayes received a direct order from Earth's president. The execution was postponed indefinitely pending council review. Kate would live, at least for now. In her cell, Kate learned the news from, who arrived with the biggest smile Kate had ever seen. "You are not going to die," said simply. "Not today, maybe not ever. Those cubs saved your life." Kate touched the medal at her chest and thought about the children who had traveled across enemy space to stand for what was right. She had saved them once. Now they had returned the favor in the most profound way possible. The war was not over. Her legal troubles were not finished. But for the first time in weeks, Kate believed she might see her daughter again. And that was everything. The footage of the cubs presenting the medal spread across the galaxy faster than anyone anticipated. Within 48 hours, every major species had seen it. The image became impossible to ignore. Children thanking a human commander. A human wearing a medal made by the enemy's offspring. A condemned officer receiving honor from those she had saved. The Galactic Council called a full assembly. Representatives from 37 species gathered in the massive chamber on Council Station Alpha. The debate lasted 3 days. Some species argued that Kate's case was an internal human matter and the Council should not interfere. Others insisted that the case had implications for all civilized species. On the 3rd day, Council Chairman of the Coalition took the floor. They were an ancient species known for their wisdom and neutrality. When spoke, the entire galaxy listened. "This assembly has watched the footage of Commander Kate and the cubs she saved," said, his voice amplified through translation technology. "We have heard arguments about military necessity, strategic doctrine, and the requirements of war, but we have missed the fundamental question. The chamber fell silent. What kind of galaxy do we want to live in? Continued. One where saving children is a crime, one where mercy is punished with death, one where honor is defined by blind obedience rather than moral courage. If we allow humanity to execute this officer, we declare those values to be acceptable. The council must take a position. After 6 hours of deliberation, the council issued a formal statement. They condemned Kate's scheduled execution as a violation of basic sentient rights. They called for her immediate pardon and the establishment of protocols for the treatment of non-combatants during warfare. The statement carried no legal force, but the political weight was enormous. On Earth, the civilian government faced mounting pressure. The president, a woman named Ellen, held an emergency cabinet meeting. The military leadership, including Admiral Hayes, argued that pardoning Kate would undermine military discipline. The diplomatic corps argued that refusing to pardon her would isolate humanity from the galactic community. President listened to both sides. Then she made her decision. Admiral Hayes, I respect your concerns about military order, but we cannot allow our laws to make us monsters. Commander saved children. That is not treason. That is humanity at its best. I am issuing a full pardon effective immediately. Hayes protested. Madam President, this sets a dangerous precedent. Soldiers cannot pick and choose which orders to follow. You are correct, Admiral, but commanders must also recognize when orders are immoral. Commander faced an impossible situation and chose the path that honored our values. If we punish her for that, we lose the moral authority to call ourselves the good guys in this war. The pardon was announced 2 hours later. Kate would not be executed. Her rank would be restored. Her record would be cleared. The military court-martial verdict was overturned by presidential authority. In her cell on Mars, Kate heard the news for a long moment she could not process it. Pardon, freedom, life. What happens now? Kate asked quietly. Now you become the most famous person in human space, said with a slight smile. And possibly the most important. Your case has opened doors that were sealed shut. Moderate voices in the Empire are calling for peace talks. They are using you as an example of human honor. This is our chance to end the war. Kate touched the medal the Cubs had made, which she had not removed since they gave it to her. I did not do this to be famous or to start peace talks. I just could not kill children. I know, that is why it matters so much. You did the right thing when it cost you everything. People respond to that kind of integrity. The peace process began slowly. Both sides were cautious, neither wanting to appear weak, but the momentum was undeniable. Public opinion in both human and space favored negotiation. The war had already lasted too long and cost too much. The Galactic Council offered to host preliminary talks. They proposed a framework called the Accords, named after the planet where Kate had made her fateful choice. The core principle was simple. Non-combatants, especially children, would be protected by both sides regardless of species. Any soldier who harmed children would face prosecution. Any soldier who protected children, even enemy children, would be honored. Kate was asked to participate in the talks as humanity's representative. At first, she refused. I am a soldier, not a diplomat. Send someone qualified. President personally called her. Commander, you are the most qualified person we have. You understand something that our generals and diplomats do not. You understand that some things matter more than winning. We need that perspective at the table. Reluctantly, Kate agreed. She was promoted to captain and assigned to the diplomatic corps. Her first assignment was traveling to Council Station Alpha for the preliminary peace talks. Represented the delegation. When Kate saw him in the conference room, she felt a strange sense of relief. At least one person there understood what she had been through. The talks were difficult. Both sides had deep grievances. Both had lost thousands of lives. Trust was almost non-existent, but slowly, carefully, they found common ground. The accords took shape over weeks of negotiation. On the 15th day of talks, and the other Cubs arrived at Council Station Alpha. They had been invited as special observers, representing the next generation that would live with whatever peace was achieved. Their presence changed the atmosphere in the conference room. It was hard to argue for continued warfare when the children who had inspired the peace process sat watching. Approached Kate during a break. The young had grown even more in the past months. She carried herself with confidence now. "Captain, I wanted to thank you again, not just for saving us but for what you are doing now." Kate smiled. "You saved me too, we are even." "No," said seriously. "We are not even, we are something better. We are allies, we are friends. That is worth more than being even." The accords were signed 6 weeks after the talks began. Both human and governments agreed to the terms. A formal ceasefire went into effect immediately. Full peace negotiations would continue, but the active warfare was over. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Kate stood beside as representatives from both governments signed the document. She wore her military dress uniform with the handmade medal from the Cubs displayed prominently alongside her official decorations. After the ceremony, news reporters surrounded her. Questions came from all directions. How did it feel to go from death row to peace negotiator? Did she think the peace would last? What would she do next? Kate answered carefully. "I did not set out to end a war. I just made a choice that I could live with. Sometimes that is all any of us can do. Make the choice we can live with and hope it matters." One reporter asked about the medal she wore. Kate touched it gently. "This medal means more to me than any honor my government could give. It was made by children I saved, children who then saved me. It reminds me why we fight wars in the first place. We fight to protect the innocent. When we forget that, we lose our way." The full peace treaty took another year to negotiate. Kate remained involved throughout the process, serving as a bridge between human and perspectives. She became known as the Captain of Mercy, a title she disliked but could not escape. During that year, Kate returned to Earth twice. The first time was to finally see her daughter. Emma was 9 now, almost 10. She had seen her mother on news broadcasts but had not been allowed to visit Mars during the imprisonment. When Kate walked through the door of their home, Emma ran to her. Kate caught her daughter and held her close, feeling the warmth and solidity of her child. All the months of fear and uncertainty dissolved in that moment. "Are you really home?" Emma asked, her face pressed against Kate's shoulder. "I am really home," Kate promised. Emma pulled back and looked at the medal around her mother's neck. "That is from the alien kids, right? The ones you saved." "Yes, they made it for me." Emma touched the medal carefully. "It is pretty. You did a good thing, Mom. Everyone says so." Kate felt tears threatening again. "I did what I had to do, and I would do it again." The second trip home was for a more public event. The human government held a formal ceremony restoring Kate's rank and honors. President personally presented her with humanity's highest military decoration, the Star of Valor. But when reporters asked Kate about it later, she still said the Cubs' handmade medal meant more. The peace treaty was finalized on the second anniversary of the 442 incident. The formal signing took place on neutral ground, at Council Station Alpha. Representatives from both governments attended, along with observers from dozens of other species. Kate stood with the human delegation. Across the room, she saw with the civilian observers. The young had declared her intention to become a diplomat herself, working to maintain the peace that Kate's choice had made possible. After the signing, there was a reception. Kate found herself surrounded by diplomats and officials wanting to congratulate her. She accepted their praise politely, but felt uncomfortable with all the attention. Then appeared at her side. "You look like you want to escape," the young said. Kate smiled. "Is it that obvious?" To someone who knows you, yes, come on, let us find somewhere quiet. They slipped away to an observation deck overlooking the station's massive docking bays. Ships from dozens of species came and went in an endless dance of commerce and diplomacy. It was peaceful, orderly, and beautiful. Hard to believe we were killing each other 2 years ago, Kate said quietly. Hard to believe you almost died for saving us, replied. But here we are, both alive, both part of something bigger than we imagined. Kate looked at the young who had grown from a frightened cub into a confident young adult. What will you do now? Your diplomatic training. Yes, I want to help maintain this peace. I want to make sure that what happened to us, what happened to you, means something lasting. Other species are watching us. Humans and working together could change the galaxy. That is a big dream. You taught me to have big dreams. You showed me that one person's choice can change everything. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the ships move through space. Two individuals from species that had been mortal enemies, now allies, now friends. Kate eventually returned to active military service, but her role had changed. She became the director of the Humanitarian Protocols Division, a new department responsible for ensuring both human and forces followed the accords. It was challenging work, but important. She also established a foundation using the prize money from various peace awards she received. The Kate Foundation for Child Protection operated in both human and space, providing aid to children affected by the war and other conflicts. Served on the board of directors. Became the youngest ever spokesperson when she turned 16. Years passed. The peace held. Relations between humans and gradually improved from suspicious ceasefire to cautious cooperation to genuine partnership. Trade opened. Cultural exchanges began. Mixed human crews started serving on council peacekeeping vessels. On the 10th anniversary of the 442 incident, a memorial was built on the site of the old military facility. It was a joint project funded by both governments. The memorial consisted of two statues. One showed Kate carrying a cub to safety. The other showed placing the medal around Kate's neck. Between them, engraved in both languages, were the words from the medal: for choosing life when death was ordered, for seeing children where others saw enemies. Kate attended the dedication ceremony with her daughter, now 19 and studying relations at university. Was there too, now a junior diplomat in the Foreign Service. Attended as a retired intelligence officer who had written a book about his role in the peace process. When asked to speak, Kate kept it brief. 10 years ago, I made a choice in a moment of crisis. I did not know it would lead to all this. I just knew I could not live with killing children. Sometimes the hardest choices become the most important ones, not because we are trying to be heroes, but because we are trying to be human. Spoke next. Captain gave us life when she could have taken it. She saw past our species and saw children who needed help. That vision, that ability to see the person instead of the enemy, that is what changed everything. We are gathered here today because one person chose mercy over orders. Let us never forget what that choice made possible. That evening, Kate walked alone through the memorial garden surrounding the statues. She touched the medal she still wore, the same one the Cubs had made years ago. It was tarnished now, worn from constant wearing, but she would never replace it. She thought about the path her life had taken, from soldier to condemned prisoner to peacemaker. She thought about the Cubs she had saved and how they had saved her in return. She thought about the war that had ended and the peace that had grown from one simple choice. Her communicator chimed, a message from Emma asking when she would be home. Kate smiled and sent a reply, soon, she would be home soon. As she walked back to the transport that would take her to the spaceport, Kate passed young humans and playing together in the memorial park. They laughed and chased each other without fear or hatred. They were the generation that would grow up in peace, never knowing the war that had nearly consumed their peoples. Kate had been prepared to die for saving enemy children. Instead, She had lived to see those children help build a better galaxy. When people asked if she regretted her choice on 442, her answer never changed. I was prepared to die for that choice. I was never prepared to live having made the other one. And that, in the end, was what mattered most.